G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Trewin. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Bianca Best from the Burnout Business based in London, United Kingdom. Thanks for your time today, Bianca.
Absolute pleasure to be here.
Let's start with how we know each other. Joseph from Guest Experts on Air reached out a few weeks ago, or a few months ago now, to just get you on the cast. And we've brought you forward a little bit because you've got a book launching in next week, actually in March. So maybe tell our audience a bit about the book before we move onto your business.
Well, thank you. That is such an honor to be able to do a little bit of book promo right at the beginning. Thank you. My book is Big Impact Without Burnout, and that's the whole premise of the Burnout Business. How can we gracefully succeed and have our impact in the world without falling over? So it's 8 solid strategies of the work that we need to do to go within, to empower ourselves, to make sure that we can embrace any challenge and have great impact.
I'm really looking forward to chatting today because you've had 3 different businesses and it sounds like you've also suffered burnout as I have over the 25 years. So I'm really keen to get into this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who hasn't actually? It's a rare person who doesn't empathize with, yeah, I've had burnout.
Well, tell our audience a bit about your business, the Burnout Business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah, thank you. So the Burnout Business is really born out of the fact that I got a publishing deal and have written this book, and it has just created so much traction out in the world where there is not a business owner, a corporate employee, an ambitious soul that I meet who doesn't say, well, I really want to have impact in the world, but I am worried about burning out. So I have transformed the content into a way to actually generate revenue. And that's at the moment, it's through speaking gigs where I'm being booked to come into organizations and inspire around these strategies. And it's around corporate consultancy. So advising organizations, whether established corporates or rapidly growing startups, and how to create a workforce that can self-sustain. And then there's my passion area, which is the one-to-one coaching and working with individuals in such a way that I help them ground themselves into knowing that ambition is not a dirty word. It is absolutely okay to lean into your biggest goals, but there is work that needs to be done in order to ensure that you're not compromising yourself and therefore that you can hit those KPIs that you set for yourself. So I'm really at a place of testing how these strategies that I know are necessary in the world, how I monetize them. So I'm very much in that experimental phase where I've got a vision, I've got a plan, and I'm very focused on book sales right now. But let's see this time next year when you and I are chatting, if I've made the millions and this empire has scaled around the world and I'm the burnout queen and it has worked. But let's see. So the future is exciting and tantalizing. Let's see.
And how did you start out?
Right, I'm going to go right back, and I will say I'm proud to always describe my CV as a chronology of passions explored. And from a very young age, I've been ambitious. I knew I wanted to make an impact in the world, but I've always done that by following my passions. And I was interested in writing, interested in publishing, and dabbled after college, getting into initially working for a magazine, fell into advertising very young in my early 20s. I had my first couple of children, and then I fell into entrepreneurialism. Now, I knew I wanted to run my own business. I didn't know how. So I call myself an accidental entrepreneur, where I created a concept for a business by accident. And I'll tell you a little bit of a story about how this first business was born. I was at home feeding my newborn baby girl. My toddler son was running around in his nappy, absolute chaos. I mean, my baby was a few weeks old. I'm sitting at home feeding the baby. I suddenly realized it was my then husband and I. It was our 10-year anniversary. And that's a special milestone. But there was no way I was going to get dressed, get the kids ready, get out to the shops and buy a gift. So I got creative. I wrote him a poem called A Decade to Remember and printed it out at home, found a frame, rummaged around, found some photos, put these photos around the poem. He came home from work that night, gifted it to him. He was like, oh, that's amazing. We hung that poem up in the hallway. Everyone who then came to visit the baby, came to the house, saw it and said, oh, where did you get that? I'd like to order one of those. My brain starts whirring, oh, is that a commodity that I could commercialize, monetize? Is that something that could be the seeds of a business idea? So I leaned in heart and soul into, can I actually create a truly personalized gift empire? And I did. And this is back in 2004, where consumer confidence in online shopping was just beginning. It was a sort of fresh marketplace in terms of manufacturing opportunity. And I just leaned in hard with this vision of how can I create a concept where giving never felt this good. That was my tagline, and create truly personalized gifts. So at that point in time, if you wanted to give a really thoughtful, personalized gift, I mean, you could go into your local card shop and you might have a mug carousel with your mum's name on it, but there was nothing truly personalized. So I set about finding web developers, designers, and I built this concept, which was to create art from memories, personalized poems with photos on all sorts of different formats, canvas, acrylic, all sorts. My brain was exploding with ideas, and this is before even Google. I created a website. My first website was a Flash website. So I didn't, yeah, that's how far back we're going. So didn't even know that the algorithm couldn't even see it or crawl it, but it looked gorgeous. So I had my pretty Flash website. And then the first advert that I bought was on Overture, pre-Google. I mean, this really is going back, but I put this advert out there and it was just my savings. I was just doing this from home with my kids, got to the point where I was ready to launch, put that first advert out there, and within 20 minutes, I'd got my first sale. I was like,
Wow.
wow, okay, there's an opportunity for this. And then it snowballed and snowballed. And a decade later, I sold that business, and it was a global omni-channel empire. I'd gone from trade manufacturing and providing retailers with the drop ship solution, which didn't really exist then. It was all so pioneering. I had concessions in large department stores, like Debenhams is the big one in Britain for any British followers. And then, yeah, I had retail outlets. Yeah, it was an incredible decade just from the seeds of an idea. And yeah, I learned a lot about myself during that period. I learned a lot about industries that I wasn't trained in. I just leaned into following my passions and my interests. And it was a lot of fun. I sold that business in 2012. And part of the reason for evolving out of that chapter was because along the way, I fell pregnant again and found out that I was twins. So at one point, I had 4 children under 7 and a business to run.
Jeez.
And yeah, I'm a great philosophizer that the universe is giving you what you need. And I wanted to focus in on family and stop the frenetic business expansion. I've got the faith in myself and the awareness that I will probably work into my 80s, maybe longer later. Work will always be there. The fragment of time of raising a family was just a small pocket. So I sold that business in 2012, ended up falling into the land of digital marketing because I'd built a brand at a time when the digital marketing industry that we know today was burgeoning. So I then fell into working for a local startup, a business called Jellyfish, which is now one of the world's largest boutique digital marketing agencies. I think they sold for 400 million to a large conglomerate. But I was there at the beginning of the journey. And fell in love with being in an established corporate. There were 100 people there, being in that environment where I could buzz off brilliant brains. It wasn't just me, but there was a big leadership team. That became very addictive. So I then fell into working in the corporate arena, which I've done for the past 12 years. I went from Jellyfish into Dentsu Aegis, one of the largest corporate comms groups, then went up again to the next largest, WPP, and most recently, I've been at Publicis Group. So then I've learned an entire different way of running businesses and large teams. And climbing the corporate ladder and understanding very different agendas and how to work with people and different metrics, KPIs, business objectives, very, very different. Again, I've grown, enjoyed that a lot, and I'm now just exiting Publicis to build the Burnout Business. So it's been an interesting undulation, entrepreneurial, corporate. Now we're going entrepreneurial again, and on we flow.
What was the name of the first business?
It was the Bespoke Gift Company.
And you mentioned before, so did you actually have your own retail outlets?
Yeah, yeah. I had one master retail outlet that was local to me, and then part of the scaled intention was to have the concessions in the department store was a test, and then my intention was to start a franchise model. I had this dream and vision that because I had expanded way beyond my own range of manufactured gifts, where I had thousands of gift designers then providing their products to me, I wanted to create in every high street. I had this vision of this small, boutiquey, beautiful little cave of inspiring personalized gifts from little, I mean, we had handcrafted twinkly night lights for children through to personalized poems, through to canvases, to dog leads, all sorts. But I wanted to create these little portals on the high street where you could come in and then access online the array of different gifts, which was pretty pioneering. I mean, we're talking 2010 then, and that was quite unusual I don't think mainstream retailers had even got into that realm of offering you a catalogue of products. But I was leaning into that. But then for whatever reason, it was twin time. So we paused.
And how old were you when you started that business?
So I was 26, 26.
And do you have any keynotes you can share to illustrate the growth of that business?
I mean, the growth, I went from zero to posting that overture ad to the end of that first year. I sold £500,000 worth of personalized products.
Holy shit,
And
that's like $1 million Aussie. Hmm.
it was exactly. And this is without any infrastructure or any premises. I mean, how I launched that business, I was really what a lot of the suppliers I was trying to get to partner with me, they were like, when I had doors shut in my face, they were like, you're too cottage industry, you're too cottage industry. And I was like, but I'm not, this is growing. But I literally was using my home, hiring staff in the local community to come into my home. I mean, I had customer service was in the playroom. The print production area was up in the nursery, literally in my daughter's bedroom. We had the printer. I had the production area was in the garage. If I wanted to make a proper business pitch call, I would go outside the back door, shut the doors to try and have peace from the children. I mean, I was in chaos. I mean, God knows if I'd be allowed to even set up like that today with insurance
Yeah.
and health and safety. I mean, I had workers coming in from the village, lovely pensioners that would arrive on their bike, come into the house and literally be stepping over the potties and the toys to get to the desk. And I was just totally making it up as I went along, following the vision that I had to create this exemplary customer service, these truly personalized gifts. I was really, really impassioned by what I was doing. And I seemed to be able to bring people on the journey with me. And it worked. And the more I started opening up retail accounts and ringing businesses like WH Smith or Tesco's, and saying, hey, I've got this way of you expanding your product range and delivering gifts. I can do it all for you. And I built the technical infrastructure that connected retailers with customers with my manufacturing setup. And that whole pretty suite of technological functionality that was seamless for the retailer meant that everyone just went, yes, yes. So by year two, I was the largest provider of personalized letters from Father Christmas in the UK.
Wow.
And that just went from me just creating a mail merge template with this little letter and just having an idea of we'll print some letterhead, put some glitter in an envelope. I then got the contract to deliver those for Tesco's. Woolworths was an old brand, a high street brand, Asda, because all the supermarket brands wanted to add it on as a little add to basket at Christmas.
Mm.
So I'm suddenly at home without a big manufacturing plant, sending around 10,000 personalized letters out to UK kids. And I literally was recruiting friends. I'd be like, come round. I'm going to give you wine. We're going to sit in the lounge and we're all going to be spooning glitter into envelopes and folding and printing. And that's how makeshift it was. But what a magical time. What a magical
Mm.
ride. And yeah, it just proved to me again, lean in with passion and things grow. So it was very exciting.
And what did you get the top line to at its peak?
Just under 1 million
Yeah.
a year, but I had very, very low overheads, and
Yeah,
that was
great.
always my business model. And I wasn't getting investment. I think now if I had did my time again, I would get investment and scale quicker. I was young, I was scared, and I had an ex-husband then that was very like, don't get into debt, and I didn't have that confidence. And I look at other businesses at that period of time. There's a brand in the UK, they might be international, called Not on the High Street.
Hmm.
And we started at a similar time. And I was working with the founder, Holly, and she loved my gift range. And so I was providing gifts on her site. And would chat a lot. She went out, and I remember she got a loan of £140,000 investment. And I wish I'd done that too, because look at what she built, look at what she created, the impact that she had. And so this time round, starting again as an entrepreneur, once I know this machine works, which I believe it will, I will get investment and I will scale quicker and braver this time, but I didn't then.
And what number of full-time equivalents did you peak at, team members?
In the end, we had five of us that were working in the main manufacturing business because, again, the model was so um, intuitive with the demand. And I had freelance poets. Yeah, that actually exists. Freelance poets. I had freelance designers, and I was able to just operate on this model where I'd built the order management system, allocated work to different poets or graphic designers, so we could just build in this very flowy, fluid way of operating. So I didn't need that headcount, which again was probably why I was able to never have any debt with that business.
Yeah. And when was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Well, bearing in mind, I write books and coach and really teach how to find success with grace. I always take the small wins as these moments of success. And if I really think deeply about what success means to me and what I teach, I advise people to lean into defining success as it's, can you fall asleep at night feeling peaceful with a sense of satisfaction in your heart that you have shown up today with integrity and made a meaningful difference? That's success. So the moment that Overture ad yielded a sale, I was like, wow, I'm onto something. So, and again, now, how do I feel I'm successful? Every time I have a positive conversation and someone's receptive to what I'm saying, guiding, doing, selling, then that feels like success. So I operate in a world where I pay attention to what feels successful. And generally, it's when I feel aligned on purpose and I'm making that positive difference. One thing I will say as well, beyond the metrics of revenue and that financial success, the profitability, those measures of success, I often think back to the first year that I had the twins, and my life was, I'd gone from building this expanding and expanded business that was successful, and I had to pause, focus in on family and sustain these children. And, all I felt like I was doing is just feeding kids and just keeping this family going. And my house wasn't clean, my hair wasn't very lustrous. But that first year of raising the twins and focusing in on family, I often say was one of the happiest of my entire life because I was so purposeful. I had the business ticking along. I had my children as my absolute raison d'etre, and it just razor focused me in how I could just keep the family and the business ticking along. And it was a really, really happy time. But I probably, to the outside world, probably looked a bit chaotic, but I was purposeful. So I think when each one of us are operating on purpose and aligned with our values, then we feel inwardly successful. And that's a gorgeous, peaceful place to be.
And that answers the next question then. What does success look like to you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's being
covered.
in a state of grace.
Yeah.
And a lot of also what I teach now is I encourage everyone who engages with the burnout business is to get to a state of graceful productivity. That's what I see as nirvana today. And there is way too much frenetic productivity, and it is quite literally crippling individuals and organizations. And graceful productivity, that is where I see success lying.
Yeah, I like that. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
I mean, experiment. I think experimenting is certainly what I'm doing right now. And I know I'm in a place of rapid expansion right now, and I was then. I think it's about testing different pillars, different marketing work streams, cast the net wide, test, learn, refine. All the principles that apply to digital marketing around scatter and then reassess, test, learn, refine, apply that to your overarching marketing strategy. Right now, I mean, I'm learning how to market a book. This is an entirely different arena for those of us in business who are so commercially focused. We don't do anything without protecting the bottom line or evaluating the margins. With a book, it seems to be publishers are less commercially minded than a lot of other organizations. It's much more about the literary reverence for printing words and getting them out into the world. And that fascinates me because, especially having run, I mean, the last team I've been running in the digital marketing arena, I've got 40,000 people. We are ensuring that we serve clients by delivering exemplary digital marketing, and we know how to make campaigns work. And then I come into an environment like a publishing environment where actually it's about the magic of the word and the majesty of the creative craft, and it's less around hardcore marketing performance, which I find fascinating. So I'm trying to bring some of the marketing performance rigor into selling the book. And a part of that for me is multiple different work streams, trial and error, and seeing what lands and experimenting. So again, let's chat in a year and see what worked this time around.
How did you fund the business?
Well, the first business was literally savings. Like I say, I never got investment, but this time around I will.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry? I guess either industry, the gifting industry,
Yeah.
what you're doing now.
Yes. Yes, I absolutely would, because I really believe that when you follow your passion, your interests, then work is fun. And for goodness sake, what are we all doing if we're not having fun and making each day as joyful as possible? So you've got to start at a baseline of what are you interested in? And if you, as I have proved again and again and again, I feel if with the right focus, energy, and attention, you can make anything as magnificent as you so choose. So you've got to be very focused with that energy, focus, and attention to create the the money that you want to make, but you need to have that base level of interest and passion for it to grow. So yes, 100%. I'm so damn interested in burnout right now that I hope to monetize it. Let's see.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
It's always around the dynamic of family prioritization and business prioritization. So, and I will say that continues whether I'm talking about being an entrepreneur or being in corporate, because it's that tension between family, which obviously family first, and making money, which keeps you stable. So, what I have learned over the years is how to artfully recognize what the priority should be at that particular time. So, most recently, at the beginning of last year, so January to March 2024, I had a period where I got promoted within Publicis up to a massive new chief growth officer role, 40,000 people. I was responsible for building this entire performance division across the globe. Massive, massive KPIs, an impetus to deliver very quickly. At the same time, I had just got my book deal. It's with Watkins and Penguin Random House. This is a childhood dream, the big time. I've got to write that book and deliver it by April.
Mhm.
I was at the end of 2 years of up-leveling my coaching certification, where the exams were all in March. So I had an intense 12-week period that was pretty unprecedented for me. And I'm always leaning into my ambitions, but that was a test. And I thought it was no irony that the book that I was writing was called Big Impact Without Burnout. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, universe, you're sending me the biggest test now, and I've got to get through this. So I had to very carefully, in the December beforehand, I had to very carefully organize myself to be able to deliver, because that was the biggest test so far. And in all the chaos of my life, I'm divorced, solo parenting the 4 children, by the way, who were all teenagers. So there's also challenges there. And it's Christmas, and
Oh
I'm
dear God, yes, the hormones.
yeah, the hormones and had the pressure of Christmas, and I don't do things by half, so I'm hosting 3 different meals for 25 people. I was hosting here that Christmas. So, and trying to bring the Christmas magic, Mary Poppins. Me, I put all that pressure on myself, my choice, because I get joy from it.
Hmm.
But I had to realize that I was going to need to create a way of managing that intensity, that work intensity. And and so I did. I needed to focus on work above family, social, even fitness, if you like. I had to understand that this was going to be a work period. So I organized across that December that come January, I would be hanging up my social shop sign saying closed. And I did, had all my Christmas parties, said I'm going to be hibernating from social life for the next 3 months. I'm going to be head down. Weekends were holy writing time. That was it. So I was delivering my work, my coaching clients, my study, that was during the week. And then I was writing all weekend, writing. And I created a couple of 2 week chunks, holiday chunks, where I went away. I went to the Maldives and just sat on a beach and wrote for 2 weeks with no distraction. And I had sat down with my family, sat down here and said, this is mummy's biggest challenge ever. So I'm going to need support in the house. Okay, please, who can do what? And this is all for our greater good. Yes, it's to satisfy my dreams, but this is obviously impacting your lifestyles too. So there was this sort of purpose-driven acceptance that this is how life was going to flow for the next few months. So within all of that, I made sure that I was protecting myself with all the things that keep me ticking along. So increasing the meditation and zero alcohol, and just making sure that I could self-sustain. And I did. I did it. Hit my corporate KPIs, finished the book, and certified in all my
Wow.
coaching exams.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
I would say that has absolutely been around people management and understanding the impact that you're only as good as the people around you. There is only one of me. So the delicacy of guiding, giving feedback is paramount importance, but also the hiring. the absolute hiring. And I think where I fall down or have felt fallen down is where I meet someone, I think they're really nice and I really like their vibe. And so I want to work with them and I think I'll give them a chance. And sometimes that goes wrong. And
Mm.
I need to be less emotional in trusting the vibe of I really like you and actually get into the solidity of examining past work performance and just scrutinizing my hiring.
Yeah, as we like to say, recruitment's the most important thing a manager does because if you stuff that up, you got to be a C player or an arsehole. Like, it just weighs you down. Chasm between an A and B player, as you know, is massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And goodness me, I've had challenges over the past few years actually of managing underperforming staff in different locations through my gig at my corporate gig and seeing the different recruitment laws and the ways that you can or cannot exit people varies from country to country. And it has really just bled my soul dry sometimes trying to get rid of real underperformers who are costing ridiculous amounts. And yet you're encouraged to just keep nurturing, and just keep trying to grow that person. And that's very painful and challenging.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
The ability to protect quality. I think when there are so many potential successful routes and product, whether it's products, work streams, that I mean, I'm experiencing right now as I head to book launch, I am being booked to speak everywhere, and every booking will have a slightly different nuance, like, oh, our organization wants to focus this year on reducing complexity. Okay, so I've got to tailor the keynote. I can hardly keep up with the volume of keynotes I'm being booked to deliver, and I don't want to denigrate the quality, so I'm probably in that right now where I'm got to protect myself, the hours in the day, but I want everything to be bespoke and tailored. But can I actually do it? It's a massive challenge. So yeah, I'm having to let go of that perfectionism and just flow and trust. Whatever reason the universe is saying it's about volume right now, get the message out there. If the message isn't perfectly tailored, so be it. But that I find hard.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
Oh, it's exhilarating. What's not to love? What's not to love? The momentum, as you start to see the momentum build, and you know that you are doing something that is having positive impact and is meeting a demand, that is whew, exhilarating.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Not to dilute the core proposition. I think it's very easy to be distracted by the shiny thing over there. And certainly in my first business, you and I would be on a yacht right now, sipping champagne, if I hadn't constantly chased the next shiny thing and diluted the core proposition. So that is hopefully something I'm going to bring with me now as I launch this next enterprise.
Yeah, that was certainly one of my mistakes early on, 25 years ago. The first few years, couldn't spell the word focus. I've now got the t-shirt and coffee mug. It's so, so important.
You're there.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Put your oxygen mask on first. Put yourself always first. I have a habit where if I feel myself spiraling with overwhelm and panic, and I feel that cortisol rise, I can recognize it in myself and I step away, even if it means I'm going to be late for the next meeting. I will go, and if I'm in an office environment, I will leave. I'll go and sit outside in a park and just breathe. If I'm at home, I'll go off and just do some breath work and stretching, and I will literally take time out, even if I just set a 4-minute timer on my phone. I recognize I cannot perform if I'm not grounded. So I'm constantly trying to bring myself back into a grounded place where I can serve best.
Want specific advice to help you get your business through its number one growth challenge? Book a free 20-minute growth chat with me, Troy, the founder of Grow a Small Business. I'll recommend some resources which will help you grow your business with ease so you can live the lifestyle you've signed up for. Go to growasmallbusiness.com and click on Growth Chat. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening? You've already touched on it a bit.
Yeah, I was always very fluid when I set up my first business because I was a mum and I was actually doing the first couple of years of business. I didn't have childcare. I had some warped belief that I was failing if I had childcare. So I thought it was normal to actually juggle everything throughout the day, then put the kids to bed and then do my thinking work throughout the night. I mean,
Hmm.
and I wonder why I burnt out so repeatedly, cyclically across that period. But then I didn't know any different. And so I think, yeah, hiring wise, be creative. You do not have to accept the status quo, and it's about finding the right skill set for what you need. And at the moment, I look at the team that I'm building around me. I've got lots of virtual resource. I'm just experimenting with what yields and what doesn't already. I've had a very expensive initial 6 month period where some hasn't worked out, some contractors that I brought in that hasn't yielded. So I'm experimenting.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Communication and a very, very, very clear purpose. So set those expectations. And this has worked for me in a corporate environment and obviously my own businesses. Be very, very clear on what you expect culturally, ways of working, and lead by example. So I've always made sure that my teams are very clear on our overarching objective, how it ladders up. And so thinking about in a corporate environment, how that ladders up into the overall business mission. And I invite a lot of autonomy within the teams to bring their skill set, their strengths to impact that overall purpose so that their contribution feels meaningful and motivating to them. So I really encourage that and constant communication between the team, look at the dynamics of different value sets, how we can create value together.
Perfect question for you, not just because of the book and also the burnout business, but obviously having with four kids and juggling, that first business, a very fast-growing business and some complexity. Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Again, putting yourself first. And in my work in the burnout business, we teach around the physical, the mental, and the emotional. And I think a lot of the well-being self-help literature focuses on the first two. So certainly in my journey of trying to work out how to not burn out, but still hit all my shiny, big, audacious goals, I would dabble with the physical. So do more exercise, try and sleep deeper, cut out processed foods, all of those things. But that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough just to become a workout queen as well. So then I dabbled with the mental. Okay, well, up the journaling, up the mindfulness practice, meditations, but that wasn't enough. It was only when I got to the point in my life of actually addressing the emotional realm of me. So this whole holistic dimension of the physical, the mental, and the emotional. When you lean in to your triggers, your niggles, your emotional unrest, any emotional disquiet, and solve and resolve and address whatever is creating that little tension, that niggle. So stabling ourselves from the inner perspective by leaning into triggers. It's difficult, it's challenging, and it's brave because it might be that you say, this culture isn't right for me. So less for the sort of entrepreneurial listener, but certainly in corporate, it may be that you say, well, this culture doesn't work. I need to leave this business. For me, the biggest one was my marriage and ending a marriage after 26 years and four children. That was huge. But actually, understanding that there was emotional unrest inside me that was creating stress, that was taking me away from the homeostatic state of my own body and rhythm, was really harming me and thus harming my ability to perform in business and serve in any which way. So it's absolutely around the physical, the mental, and the emotional. And don't shy away from being triggered. Absolutely lean in with curiosity to why you're triggered and look at how you can resolve it kindly and with integrity. And then I think there's real gold in how you can self-manage and have that self-agency to have big shiny impact.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
A lot, always. and my teams, it's absolutely a priority. If you're not developing yourself, how can you grow a business if you're not growing yourself? And life is about evolution. Our businesses evolve. We have to evolve.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Yes, I have. Mainly recently, actually. I was very self-directed generally along my path and would just read books voraciously, but then being able to afford my own coaches in the past few years, I have definitely invested in coaches, not so much for how I lead business, but more for that holistic and spiritual realm. Actually, the coach I work with now is a spiritual one, and that's how I'm choosing to get help and how I evolve that way.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
Not yet. Let's see. Give me time. I think I'm going to need it.
Now, Bianca, you're one of the few we've had on that has exited a business. Any advice for the audience listening, thinking about exiting one day?
Get your numbers in order so that you are led by absolute scrupulous rigidity and accuracy in your numbers from day one. That's my biggest tip.
Totally agree. I probably should get a tattoo, know your numbers. I'm a
Exactly.
big advocate.
Exactly.
All right, Bianca, one of our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
The variety of options, the sheer abundance, especially today, of which direction you're going to go in, what are you going to do first?
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
I am going to answer this in the corporate realm. The first 90 days was hugely pivotal and useful for me because I didn't know how to play the corporate game. So the first 90 days and also the politics of promotion. Whew, that
Wow.
was useful. Bonnie Marcus.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Audible. I want to dive into the book. I really believe in this subjective versus objective attention. It's up to us to really direct how and what we learn. And so I like to go deep into a subject. And generally, I'm nervous of podcasts if the subject isn't very clearly defined, because like I say, I don't want to waste time consuming something that might not be wholly relevant. So Audible is my absolute best friend.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Well, actually, this is a new one. Someone recommended to me yesterday. It's called Opus AI. I don't know if you use this. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, James Ashford, who's also in the UK. Have you heard of James? I had him on the podcast.
No.
He was on John Warrillow's podcast, Built to Sell Radio. It was awesome. It was a bit of a swear off between James and I. He's, I think he's a Yorkie. I think he's around Yorkshire way.
Yeah.
So he built up a SaaS business over 5 years and sold it to Sage for 8 figures, pounds, so
Wow.
over
Wow,
10
wow,
million
wow.
quid. And he told me about Opus. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it looks incredible. It will take a clip like this, and then it will automatically create multiple reels of the highlights. It will naturally find and locate the best bits, and it sounds magic. So I'm going to play with that. So I'm recommending it before I've even tried it.
Oh, I hear it's really good. Finally, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 21 years ago?
Follow your heart, follow your heart, follow your heart, and stay in integrity. That's it. Stay in integrity, because if ever you are out of alignment with your value set, you are not going to be fulfilled. And I therefore know you will not be effective. So, yeah, follow your heart, stay in your integrity.
Thanks so much for your time today, Bianca. Really enjoyed our chat. Congratulations on the growth starting out in 2004 with the Bespoke Gift Company, getting that up to around 2 million Australian dollars turnover, selling it after about 10 years, team members going from yourself up to around 5, and then moving into a corporate chapter and more recently launching the Burnout Business and with your book as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great chat. Honored to be here.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.